You got a little vig going with Floyd, Ed?
No. I said trying to keep his fees down. Do we have, Captain, do we know if anyone's asked to sign in, or we just, oh, okay.
There's 8 participants. We have 3 in the public, 1 question actually already. You could do that in the public.
Okay. Chief, there was a good letter you sent to Ginny Rack. So I hope, I don't know what, whether that.
All right, sir, we are ready when you are.
Okay. Well, look at, we're ready. Okay. We'd like to convene the February meeting of the Board of Madison Police Commissioners is now called to order. We'd like to start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Ann, it looks like you sprinted right into the meeting just in time. Thank you.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Nope. Look, we all voted not to start until you were here, so and we hope that's water you're drinking, Ann, but whatever, it's
Yes, sir.
you're on your personal time. So, first order, is there a motion to accept the minutes of our January meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any corrections, discussions?
No.
On it? I thought they looked fine as well. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, minutes are accepted. Christy, thank you again. Public comments. If there's anyone online, we would certainly welcome any comments. If you could just state your name and your address before your comments, that would be helpful. Are there any public comments?
We do have one, sir. Steve Roan, if I can let him into the meeting.
Please. Steve, welcome. As I said, if Steve, if you could just state your name and your address, and we're certainly receptive to any comments. He's got to unmute. There.
Can you see and hear me?
Yes, Steve.
Okay, great. I wanted to speak about the situation that's been going on for years. My name is Stephen Roan. I live on 370 Cops Road, the last house just before Green Hill. And there have been a number of accidents. I've lived here I've been in Madison 15 years. I live on Cops Road for 10 years. And since I've been here, there have been ongoing accidents there. In the last administration, I met once with the police board, and nothing was done. At one point, I kept nagging Tom Banish, and finally he put up a blinking or a speed detector light on top of Green Hill, which I thought helped a great deal. I don't know if you know the history of this situation. They had professionals from the state come in and try to figure out what the problem was. So what they did is they lowered the height of Green Hill so the visibility would be better. And they repaved it, resulted in people are only going faster now. At the intersection, it's a 4-way intersection where there's 2 stop signs. Up on Ridge Road, there's 3, which is awkward at a 4-way intersection. And down on Norton Town Road, there's 4. Now, the most traffic is at the intersection, at my intersection at Green Hill and Cops Road. And there's 2 stop signs. So what has happened a number of times, Since I've been here, I can honestly say probably close to 100 accidents. I spoke to somebody and they were looking up and they hadn't gotten back about exactly how many, because I guess they wanted to see if I was making this up or not. But the accidents have been real bad. I talked to a resident who's across the street from me, and he says he remembered that there was even, he's lived here for 50 years. He says there's even been a fatality there. I've seen mothers with children and airbags and all sorts of stuff that's been real bad. There's been many, many accidents there. So what I'm asking you is if we could come up with a situation, the speed detecting light has been removed. And I nagged about that and it was put back. It worked quite well. It's similar to the one, it's exactly the same as of the one down by the Grove School, where it tells you the speed and it tells you to slow down and it says, thank you. It was exactly the same as that. It worked really well. And so now there hasn't been one there for a while. Sometimes it's there for 2 months and then it doesn't work. Now it's been taken down totally. So there's no speed light up there at all. So I would like you to try to come up with some kind of remedy for this, because whatever has been done doesn't work. Of course, it's different now with COVID and there's less traffic, but still it's very, very awkward. The buses come up and down Cops Road. So it's a major thoroughfare, and all the parents that are taking the kids to school, the same type thing. So either that detector has to be put back, maybe a four-way stop, or maybe a blinking red light. And I'd like to get your input on this if I could, please.
Sure. Steve, thank you. Obviously, not obviously, but Green Hill has been Green Hill Road, given its access to the schools, has been a regular part of our discussions here when traffic issues come up. So, Chief, maybe let me ask you to just maybe bring us up to speed, because we have talked in the past about some of the traffic calming signs, and I know that there's been some maintenance issues with them, but maybe you can just bring Steve up to speed as well.
Be happy to. Good evening, Steve.
Hi.
Steve, I arrived here in January of 2010. So since I've been here, there's been 2 traffic studies done by the Department of Transportation for the state of Connecticut for the entire length of Green Hill. Obviously, the area of concern that has come to us on occasion comes from citizens concerned about Cops Road and Green Hill and why isn't it a four-way stop. First, I want to tell you the speed signs that we put up there, the one we put up there gets damaged. We then take it for repair. They're almost $6,000 start to finish. We get it repaired and we return it and it gets damaged, and damage meaning vandalized. It's actually scheduled to go back up there this week, a new one. And I hope, that this one will last for a while before someone attempts to vandalize it again. So that's where your speed signs have been. It's not easy to get them. And during COVID, it's hard to get the parts or get the repairs. Now, that's something we've experienced firsthand. The problem with Ridge Road that the studies have determined is that the incline, it does come down. You're correct. They did lower it at one point. I believe that was under Mike Ott when he took over for transportation for the town of Madison. I believe there's some grade enhancements. I believe that's what they called it, to that area. The problem is that it does not give sufficient time for a motorist coming over that crest to stop for that stopway, a four-way stop at Cops and Green Hill. So what it does, it puts them in danger of getting rear-ended. I'm putting that in layman terms for you, but that's what the study always seems to go to. Now, what else can we do there? I had a discussion this week with Dave Anderson and John Ianecco from our engineer, town engineer, as to is there other things we can do. At this point, all we can put is additional signage. And when we put additional signage, there's also the pushback for some of the people that live there that they don't like seeing a lot of signs or blinking lights, etc. But we're going to give it a shot. That's what we're doing to rectify the problem you stated. Oh, incidentally, there haven't been 100 accidents in that intersection. I just want to make that point. We've had that study. We have a 1 year, a 3 year, and a 5 year. I think there was 19 accidents within the 5 years.
Well, I personally, I'm not doubting you. I personally have gone and down to the site after the accidents, or, you know, and I call in, and I must have called in, and it can be checked too, probably a dozen times. And other neighbors have called in, and it might not be 100, but it's a very large number. Sometimes there have been some, particularly over the summer. And so it doesn't have to do really with school. A lot of the accidents are with young drivers, and there are some that aren't. When they make the turn, you know, they want them lots of times. The biggest problem is, Chief, is people coming down the hill at the speed. People are stopped at Cops Road, and so if they're going to have an accident, it's going to be a slow accident. But the ones coming down the hill, you know, the paved road and the lowering it, which somebody told me was close to $1 million or for that job being done, it just makes them go faster. And
I don't disagree with you, Steve. I like I said, I had that sign being replaced, the one at Ridge.
yeah,
I talked to some my partners with engineering and zoning, and I suggested maybe an additional sign, the same type sign as you start coming over that hill.
mm-hmm.
We also have a sign going on Green Hill on the Killingworth line this week also.
Okay.
With the exception if snow comes, it makes hampers the crews putting them up. Those signs are, to me, they're worth their weight in gold. They work, you know,
Sure.
and a lot of people notice them. They also are susceptible to a lot of vandalism. I'm not sure why people go up and feel they need to go ahead with a baseball bat or something.
I'm really surprised to hear that. You know, where it is now, it's by the neighbor Ed Massini has the property all there, and he has he cuts wood, and he has a driveway right there. And maybe the location is not a good location. Maybe it should be further down or further up. What's your feeling about that?
Well, I think I'm going to continue with that intersection where it is just west of the Ridge Road, and just add an additional sign. What we're trying to do is do the technology where we're going to put the cameras adjacent, undetected, perhaps help, and we could somewhat curb some of the vandalism that way. Because as I said, we have to take them down, send them out, and they go back to the company, and because of COVID, it's exacerbated the process.
Right.
So, and as I said, they're expensive. I do want to add the purpose of the three-way and enhancements at Ridge Road was people were pulling out from Ridge, not realizing that traffic, they assume traffic stopped all three ways. It does not.
Right.
So that was the purpose of enhancing that. What they don't like with DOT studies, and every time I ask for stop signs, they question me, are you using this to slow down traffic? The DOT does not like that. They don't want to use stop signs as a deterrent to slow down traffic. I feel they do, but they don't want that. They want sufficient warnings prior to or a school zone. There was a discussion of perhaps even extending the school zone. We extend it up the hill. You know, that's something we discussed in the last month. So, I mean, we're aware of it. It's a conundrum because of that downslope. When they come out, they do all kinds of tests. The engineers do, and when they feel that there isn't sufficient braking for somebody coming down the hill or the ability to make a left or right turn safely, they won't advocate for a stop sign. I recently went through this with Neck Road. Neck Road, we have a three-way stop now when you first right behind the schoolhouse deli, and they wouldn't make it a four-way stop because people entering from Route 1 would not have sufficient distance to stop at that stop sign. They felt that may create an additional hazard. I also faced that on Liberty Street on Route 1. People coming from where the Greenway Trail comes in. You know, we wanted to make that a stop because people go in there like an aircraft carrier launch. You know, so we're trying to. There's other I mean, I can name the locations for you, but we're aware of it. We're trying to mitigate it. We're trying to also fund the mitigation of it. It's sometimes a long process, but we're on it. And then occasionally we're able to move our patrols around town when available, to run radar there, which is
Okay.
difficult coming down that slope. They have to shoot radar from those coming down the hill and park one in the intersection or somebody's driveway, which people have been very cooperative with that.
Well, just the fact that you said you're going to get put the detector back up there is going to make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been, from the time the last administration was there, it had been taken down, or I didn't know it was vandalized. I'm surprised to hear that. But it had been removed probably half a dozen times, and then sometimes the absence would be for months, But I really feel by living there and noticing that detector really does make a difference.
Right.
I'm happy
Steve,
to hear that. And we'll get on, as I said, we're already in motion with that. The
Okay.
two, okay?
Yeah. One of the things I would just suggest,
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Steve, we have a traffic law. Tom Cartledge has been overseeing it. One of the things we might do, Tom, is just kind of tickle this for 60 days or 90 days, and get an update from the chief in terms of the his sense of the impact of the signage replacement. So it's it is as the chief noted, it's one of those areas like the entrance to Liberty and Route 1 that we just try to keep abreast of current issues with it. But
it'll go into the log tonight, dated with Steve's name and his address and a very brief line as to the circumstances, and it'll be followed up from there.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Stephen.
Chief,
Thank you.
We'll
Okay.
turn it over to you for the chief's report.
I am. Joe, you could put Steve back with our participants. Joe?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Let's start with finances, budget. No surprises with the budget. We're where we probably should be at this time of year, with a couple of exceptions. We have one officer who is retiring. A second officer will be retiring within the month. We have one officer who's on extended leave. So we're backfilling more than we generally do. However, we're going to be taking the wage that was encumbered for their salaries, and I'll be unencumbered and put into the overtime line to somewhat offset, mitigate the overage. Outside of that, we really don't have any issues with the budget. Ed, you're muted.
I know. Do they have workshops scheduled, Chief, or what is the calendar for any of the budget workshops?
Well, I think the final one was today with the Board of Selectmen, and that had to do with transportation. It's already gone through the town meeting they had. There's a town meeting to approve it, I believe, next week. Right now, we had a meeting with a discussion. Most of it pertained to CIP projects. If you have a few minutes, I can go through those.
Sure.
Cover it? Okay. So in the CIP, essentially, they categorize and put a priority on them. And this is over a 5-year period. We update it every year for 5 years out as in basic accounting. That's what most do. What we do every year is the vehicle replacement schedule, which is the ongoing process of replacing the vehicles based on phases, something we initiated when I first arrived. It's proved very, very successful for us. We extended the life of the vehicles. We extended use after payment. And we essentially got as much out of the value of the vehicle as we could without compromising the safety of the operators. That's an ongoing, and that fund is $120,000 is placed there every year for vehicle replacement. When we order vehicles, we order them in phases, 4 at a time. We have the offset years for administrative cars or K9 replacement vehicle. Generally, those are cash purchases within that budget. We keep it, I keep it at that 120 level, so it is a constant funding by the town and the resources of the community to that budget with no surprises. As you might recall, when I arrived, they would order 7, 10 cars all at once. They'd run them for 3 years hot, 24/7, then order 10 again. High repair bills. So we countered that. We have a vehicle we just retired with 5 years on it. We put $900 into it and it was given to the fire marshal's office last week. So we're able to extend the life by the rotation of the vehicles and the proper maintenance and actually managing the maintenance of the cars and the operation. If we come up with a driver we feel might be abusive, we mitigate that. So it's been very successful. So that's just the first part of 4 areas that we have in CIP. Does anyone have any questions on that?
So the CIP is the capital budget plan?
It's a capital improvement plan over a 5-year, and it's ongoing. Like our strategic plan, we update it every year. We update it every year for Board of Finance and for the Capital Improvement Committee.
Yeah.
Second part that would be.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Second part of that is police technology. With the capital improvement, that involves our server systems, that involves the MDTs, the mobile data terminals within all the vehicles. It involves the modems, technology of cameras, both 2 in the vehicle, 1 on the officer. It's that management. We generally purchase out and do we negotiate for the best rate, and we pay it over a 3-5 year period certain. Probably around the 7th year it comes up for replacement. That's been our trend so far, our history. The equipment lasts longer. The third part to that is communication upgrades. There's 2 components to that. There's the retirement of the debt for the phase 2, which was the installation of the tower system throughout the town of Madison. We have essentially 2 payments left. That was negotiated less than 3% when we did that project. The third phase is also inclusive in that, and that's going to be the last 3 payments of the subscriber equipment. What subscriber equipment is the actual radios and handheld radios used by police, fire, ambulance. In there additionally is the old Route 79 tower. The old Route 79 tower is owned on private property. That was sold by the town to a group back in 1996. And they did was they gave the town approximately 25 years certain revenue off that tower to the tune of $250,000 annually. That expires December of 2024. What we're doing right now is, as we said when we built the project of the towers, that we'd start looking after 2 or 3 years of established service to look for vendors to put on the current tower system that we built. What does that mean? Currently, we have Verizon and AT&T looking at the Arts Barn Tower. They've already inspected, looked at it, and they're about ready to make an offer to the town of Madison to put antennas on those tower structures, which would mean rent and revenue for the town. Most of those contracts are 20+ years certain. So the idea is to utilize them with pretty solid companies, get the Board of Selectmen and others to approve it. And then we have paying customers on the towers. And after so many years, they basically pay for the structures. So that would be phase 3. And phase 4 is the actual building. The building is going on 22 years old. We've done very well with it. It has great maintenance. Hats off to the building department and the Bill McMinn's group. However, there are some areas that have to be rehabbed. The men's locker room, women's locker room is scheduled. That's 22 years, a lot of moisture and mold. So that's planned. That project will commence this year, this budget year, into next budget year. Second part was security upgrades. Some of that has started already. The third was we have fitness equipment upstairs, and I'll call it our upstairs or our attic. And that's where the officers have a makeshift gym, so to speak. We'd like to formalize that, build it out, put air and heat in there so that they're able to work out of the proper equipment. That's number 3. And the last one, number 4, is an extension of the garage we have. So we can put some of the equipment that we leave out year round and put it inside the garage. So, and also put additional storage in there, for some documents. Half my upstairs is filled with documents and boxes. So that's what the CIP plan is for the Madison Police Department and Communications section. Any questions, sir?
Yeah. So what's the timing and the investment if, just take, for example, item 4, the renovation of the locker room and extension of the garage, is that scheduled for 21-22, or is it farther out than that?
It's scheduled post July 1st of this coming year.
Okay. And what's the approximate cost? Do you know? Do you
I
recall?
believe, on that one is going to be, I want to say 213, but I'm going to. $200,000.
Okay. Thank you. Those absolutely, to me, sound kind of prudent, timely investments over this extended period. We had also talked about, cameras for downtown and the fact that that was an investment that we had last year thought might be worthwhile to analyze further and come up with a plan. Is that part of this process? It doesn't sound like it fits under any of these criteria.
Well, I mean, technically, the enhancements to our building are under the building department, but I generally work through the process in the various meetings and the give and take, and Al could add to that. Usually, Billy and I are attached at the hip, Billy, as we discuss and walk through this. Talk to the cameras, that would be Art Sickle and I from technology. Our camera system and our enhancements there, even the discussion of future cameras within the critical infrastructure of the town of Madison and the school enhancement come through Art Sickle's office. Although they will end up using the camera system that will be received within the police department building dispatch, and the nutmeg system, which originates from the state of Connecticut through all the school systems, comes through this building to the school system in the town hall. So it makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm still not that clear. So do we have a plan, a potential date to present a request for a camera system on Main Street in Madison?
I think at this point, at discussion, it's a placeholder. And a lot of that has to do with the completion of projects within downtown or even the library. That, there's still some, they're still trying to remove, and Al helped me on this, I think a couple of poles downtown and some other enhancements. The crosswalk is also in that discussion with a greenway to the surf club. So instead of, we like to measure twice, cut once instead of cutting twice, and wish we measured twice. It's a plan. It's part of it's an expansion of downtown. We don't want to put heavy equipment on poles that are going to be taken down. So it would be a waste of money. So what we've done, and I'll talk to in traffic, is we decided that the town engineer and the town zoning officer and myself would meet on a regular basis once a month to discuss all things plans for Madison. This came out of a meeting last week with Peggy, when I first selectwoman. And I think it's a good thing because now we're all on the same page. We discussed some of the issues were and some of the what we find duplication, or example, West Wharf, where we went and we did the study for West Wharf to put a crosswalk, but we can't put a crosswalk in there because they'll require us to put the ramps of the sidewalks in that little area there where the road meets. But it's not going to serve anything if they go and put the walkway that's being planned from the surf club to downtown. And what if it doesn't match up? Now we have another problem. So we just want to, as I said, do the planning, get it in place, and put it there. Is there a discussion and a placeholder for a infrastructure with technology? Yes. Can I tell you if that's going to be completed in 3 years? No.
Okay. It sounds like at this point, by the way, I agree with you. I think having you participate in some discussion of some infrastructure plan for downtown Madison absolutely makes sense from a public safety, aspect. But it sounds like, in terms of a specific request, and I'm not sure that, we've gone through the needs analysis part of it, but it sounds like the potential to have downtown cameras from a public safety point of view, might be a future consideration as the project evolves, which, it sounds a little bit like, maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't, depending on, the timing and the budget, but it's not in, at this point, it's not part of the CIP plan for the Madison Police Department.
For the police department, no. For technology, that discussion has taken place, and that is where it would fall under. There are some, the problem with dealing with the state DOT is that, we can make a plan and say we're going to put this crosswalk in, or we're going to put signs here, and they do the study for us, and we finish the work and find out they're going to be paving the road.
Yeah.
That happened downtown with the project. It's like you're paving it now. So, and then we continue the project, dig up the road. We're trying to cut that out and find a way that we can focus where the town wants to go. How can we best maximize the planning availability of all the different offices and what they bring to the table, and with the various projects we have. There's a lot of discussion that occurs in projects that we don't know from the police commission side, from safety, that involves whether it be bike safety, zoning, or John Iannaco's office with engineering. Well, we did find out that a lot of people that send us letters and requests have sent them letters and requests. And they're kind of like shopping for that answer, We realize there's some things we can do and cannot do, but all three of us together, there's a lot we can get accomplished and save the time and money. So unless it's it's something we need for safety, we need to address for safety right away. And that'd be, let's say, the discussion we just had with Steve on Green Hill Road. We go ahead and do that. But when it comes to a larger project, like putting a crosswalk downtown, crosswalk at West Wharf, we'd like to do it in conjunction with the other projects. One, it's going to be less money. Two, if it's what we're finding out when I'm going back to DOT is that DOT is starting to fund this stuff again. Like they just recently announced to us that they will pay for enhancements for mid-block crosswalks. That means the ramp going up, handicap ramp going down, the curbing. The case of downtown, what's that, granite? And for simplicity, the strobe lights, the warning lights, the signage ahead, plus the stop bars. That's an expensive proposition, like $25,000, $30,000, and those lights are like $25,000 a piece. So we would rather have them, speaking for the community, have the DOT pay for it, seeing we're not getting paid other funds we used to get for other investments of the town into the town by the state or non-investments. I'd rather have them pay for the project overall, save money to the town.
Well, I think, again, this is helpful to review this, these projects for the capital improvement plan. And, maybe we've been a little remiss as we look at our budget going forward as a commission to say, we should target a review of this plan on an ongoing basis, because these are specific police department related projects. I think they're wise investments. We've talked about some of them in a great depth. For example, the tower system. I think that was a critical investment by the town. And if we look at some of these other areas, such as a regular upgrade of the police department building and facilities, those are key investments that we should be supporting, and not be in a position where you're the only one carrying water on this project. So I think this is a helpful update.
What's key is that we have enjoyed a very good reputation with the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and CIP. We predicated our needs based on what we needed for the town. If we had a wish list, we told them it's a wish list. And the question, Jack, can you go without that? Yes. Can we go without another officer to replacement? Jack, this is COVID times. We don't know what our collection rate is going to be for next year. Yes, of course. Can you make do with this or that? Yes, we'll make it work. We have to do that. We don't know what the collection rates are going to be for the town next year. We knew what it was for this year, and half those bills are paid before COVID hit. And to say maybe it's not our problem, it is our problem because, you know, we're part of the community and we're trying to be team players. And when we ask for something, I'd like people to say, well, they asked for it, they must really need it.
It's a good position to be in. On the other hand, a budget is a plan, and this capital improvement budget is a plan. I think it's prudent and appropriate to say these are the expenses we think are necessary to support the Madison Police Department over the next 3 years. And so, you know, I'm not being critical at all. I'm just reinforcing these are, I think, are important projects. The communication and technology are critical investments as far as I'm concerned. On the other hand, the Board of Finance is saying, you know, we've got 10 pounds of requests and we've got 5 pounds of available funds. So, you know, there is some, you know, ability. There's going to be a need to justify some of these, and I think it's helpful, you know, that we as a commission have a full sense and understanding from you of what are the needs for this, what's the impact, and this is something, you know, we as a commission absolutely, you know, support going forward. So I think it's just an area that, again, maybe has been a little, for me anyway, under the radar from our budgeting process, and maybe just, you know, as we go into a budget planning year, we can have an earlier discussion, you know, what is the status of these projects, what needs to be added to the project, what is coming off stream because they're completed this year. So just, it's a little more, I think, might be a little more helpful, you know, to get us continue to be engaged as a commission.
Right, I understand that, and I just, you know, just want to add to the, seeing we're talking budgets and finances, that I'm not sure. I mean, with the Police Accountability Act and some of the requirements, there's going to be demands upon us for improvements in technology that we're going to have to comply with as a mandate. There's a very simple thing is not that we weren't identified, but just to I put all the garments that the officers have with name, badge number, and that embroidery was like $4,000. That's a start to that's just a start. We're looking at what is the cost for us to have MSWs or psychologists on staff as that component. Now they're talking about the training we did over 3 years, that we would put 25 hours in. Now they're asking us to do 40 hours every year. That's 40 hours of officers either scheduled on overtime plus the cost analysis to do that. We're one of the front runners of police departments that do training on firearms. Now they want us basically to double that up. And departments that did it once a year, now they have to basically do it 5 more times. That's a big expense. So this is all going to come to us. And next year, I'm going to be going to the Board of Finance and through the Board of Police Commission saying, hey, we need an additional, I don't know, $100,000 just to operate legally based on what's now required of us. So, I mean, that's out there. So I'm just trying to run this board and you know, I let my first select woman know, and Al, when I see him in meetings, we talk, and hats off to Al, that he's been very, very gracious when he reports back to the Board of Selectmen. But these are realities that we're going to be facing very soon. But I don't know the number until they tell me I have to do it. So.
Okay.
And maybe I should give a quick update on the budgeting process, since it sounds like we're going around and around on that. The selectmen met this afternoon, that's why I was late. Our schedule has us finishing a budget by the end of this month and presenting it to the public on March the 3rd at a public hearing. So I think the good news is, as far as I can tell, the police commissioners will not be invited to meet with the Board of Selectmen between now and then. That is to say, we didn't really have any questions about the operating budget for the coming year. The chief also was speaking about the capital budget and the capital improvement program. And that budget, as far as the selectmen are concerned, seems pretty reasonable. Just to remind you that after the Board of Selectmen is done recommending a budget. It is then up to the Board of Finance as the check and balance to also approve that budget. So I think as far as the selectmen are concerned, the police department budget so far looks very reasonable and appropriate, and will probably be included just as you presented it to us. If there's any topic that the selectmen seem to be very interested in regarding the police department, it is the summer beach program for the coming summer. We have a lot of folks here that probably have their own opinions about whether Madison beaches will be extremely populated and well-used this coming summer, just as it was this past year, or whether we will be reverting to a more normal density of usage. I don't know that any of us have an answer to that, but that's the main topic the selectmen have been interested in as far as the police department so far.
Good. Well, I appreciate the update. You know, I think I don't want to get us off track here, but since we do have a little bit of time before the lifeguard stands are manned, but I thought the overall program that the chief developed last year, you know, seemed pretty comprehensive. Obviously, any plan, a program like that can be adjusted, and we can learn from our experience last year. So, you know, that's something, Chief, maybe at a future meeting, we'll ask you to, you know, go through, you know, hear your plans and thoughts, you know, going forward, just so, you know, we as a commission can kind of get an early view of it. Obviously, it's something that, as Al said, the Board of Selectmen has an interest in, but okay. Thank you, Al. Appreciate that. It's always nice not to be asked to attend a meeting where something might go off track. So we appreciate the non-invite. Anyway, Chief, activity statistics.
That next report is on the April meeting.
Right. Okay. We should report the quarterly. There are a couple of updates on the training. But, yeah, but I'll just turn it over to you. I know there were a couple of things from Sergeant York here, but I'll take us through what we need to hear about just the monthly training.
Yeah, I'm going to add to the just a brief, somewhat related to the activity investigations that in regards to that bank robbery that we had about a month ago, one of the accused committed suicide. So the other one, we're waiting for warrants back. Also, the warrants went in for the death of a Madison resident in regards to two individuals racing up north approximately 7 months ago and 8 months ago. And those warrants in with the court. And I think they added additional charges, the court did. So they have racing, manslaughter, and I believe they added assault second. So I just wanted to give you that update because I like to keep you folks informed on that. One other question, when we talked last time about investigation in the middle school, the question was raised, was the FBI involved? I talked to the U.S. attorney, oversight of the FBI. Absolutely not. There is no federal agency involved. Joe, would you pick up on training?
Yes, sir. Good evening. So as far as training goes, we're still trying. We obviously have to stay on board with all of our requirements. We did over 177 hours of training in the month of January. Our SWAT team and our K-9 team did their usual monthly installments. We did ethics training online. We did use of force and report writing in kind of a hybrid model. We're trying to, I guess, take a lead from the schools and work between our online component and the softwares we have and in person, but that's been really difficult. So we're really trying to leverage that technology. And then we had 5 officers recert with Collect, which is something they have to do every 2 years to be able to get into the NCIC systems. But just know that we are doing everything we can to stay on board with training, despite all the circumstances around us.
Great. Good. Thank you.
On the monthly traffic report, Joe, you have that in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was from Jeremy also.
Yep, so we had 17 motor vehicle accidents, 4 with injuries. We had no DUI accidents, which is good, no fatals. The one thing I will say is with the storms, if I give a shout out to all the people in town that are listening to the weather and they are not traveling when the weathermen say not to, has tremendously helped us. With all the snow we've had, it's been very few and far between, probably far less than we've ever seen. So, I guess I'll say, kudos to the people of Madison in heeding those warnings. It's tremendously helpful for us in public works.
Good.
But generally, it's the usual, the same thing. It's following too closely tends to be one of our top incidents. But again, very few with injuries, so it's going well.
Thank you, Joe.
Community calendar.
We don't have any, outside of the discussion we have with the July 4th, the anticipation of July 4th parade or fireworks, as we discussed last meeting. We really don't have any other events that have been put on the calendar. There's a discussion with various race groups, bike groups, the touch truck program, even discussion what they're going to do when baseball season comes. But that's all right now. It's discussion part and up in the air.
Okay. Good. Regional shared services, I assume we're treading water a bit still on that?
Well, our cyber crime unit, which is made up of several towns along the shoreline towns, we met yesterday actually, and discussed the funding expenditures for next year. And essentially, this is there's approximately overall about 11 detectives that work from Milford to Clinton, and they're used in various aspects of responding to a cyber crime or other telephone technologies. So Madison has been invested in that for the last 3 years. And we work almost every day on a project or some within town. I mean, the ability to, most crimes, probably 80% of the crimes in the country right now are committed. At some point, there's a cell phone either in the pocket or used within the crime. So we have the technology for that breakdown and for the follow that up with the Secret Service and the Cybercrime Task Force with the FBI, and it's very valuable. So that's the only discussion we've had. I did have a discussion with Clinton in regards to how they're making out on the radio project. Right now, it's not really funded to the capacity they like. They're still working on it through the town as the town works through the budget project process.
Okay. Okay. Correspondence?
I believe you have a letter in there, sir.
Yep. Yeah. There's a letter to Ginny Raff.
Yeah, that's in regards to that request I made last meeting, and to once again asking that we consider Middle Beach Road as one way.
Good. Thank you. I thought there was a comprehensive letter. Thank you. I mean, that is as we talked, that issue is going to be there for a while and has been there for a while. And, maybe if we just move the shoreline out a little bit, we'd solve it. But that's one of our ongoing issues.
Could we roll this into the traffic discussion?
Sure.
All right. Yeah. Okay, as I stated earlier, we had met on last week, the town engineer, myself, and Dave Anderson with zoning, and Peg Lyons, our first select woman. Today, again, I had a discussion with Dave Anderson on what could, all things we could consider for Middle Beach Road. And from that, we then went to the Greenway Trail. And essentially we talked all the conundrums that we come upon as we try to move forward with it. So he suggested, and I agree with him, that he's probably through his office going to bring in, not the DOT, we have enough studies. We don't need any more studies. We have multiple studies at different locations. And as I said, they're behind me in boxes. And And some of them aren't warranted because they come back and the DOT says, essentially, you do not have to do any enhancements. The road's fine and under their safety net. But there's planners, such as they used in New Haven when they put the bike lanes in and they did a lot of the enhancements to the roads so traffic can move, not just vehicle traffic, but pedestrian traffic can move either by walking, bicycle, or stroller or other. So I believe he's going to go to Al, to your board, and have a discussion of can we bring in one of these companies that does that assessment through a community, which means the community meets and tells them what all the wishes are. And then they somehow try to come up with a plan that will work. We realize the challenges of Middle Beach Road. Middle Beach Road, if it was the same width all the ways, then this would be a non-discussion, would have been done. Things we need to do. It gets narrow by the curve. We know when they replace the road, and there's other factors that are preventing it from widening the road, and and that's a discussion for another board on how they would tackle that. But if somebody were to come in and external and look at all things that we've heard probably in this board for the last 3 years, and some of particularly the safety enhancements, that they come up with a plan for us that we could, it's like a needs assessment and a plan. So I believe that that's what Dave's going to do through zoning in conjunction with myself and John Anako and the first selectman, the selectman's office, to do the study, put our input, bring it back to our various boards, and see where it lands. What do you think?
Sure.
Questions, comments, observations?
Aaron, unmute.
I think that something like that is probably extraordinarily timely, considering that we are going to be looking at perhaps another summer of everybody being in place, with a lot of people staying in Madison and a lot of people utilizing, as we see, even on the coldest days. When I'm out walking or just taking a ride along, there is a preponderance of people, vehicles, babies, dogs, carriages out there now, which only thinks what's going to happen this summer. And since we get besieged with this request on a regular basis, it would be a good idea if we had a resource of a professional group who came back in and looked at it and were able to offer either very real suggestions or finally put some of these issues to bed and say, I'm sorry, we just can't do it, but we do need the public's involvement. We do need your help. Remember, single file is not 5 across. So anything that'll help get the word out and indicate that we are actually doing our job, which I know we're all doing anyhow, but sometimes the public doesn't perceive it that way. I think it's a fabulous idea. And I would volunteer my time anytime you'd like to have a member of the commission come in for one of these sessions, Chief.
Well, there'll definitely be a presentation back to the Board of Police Commission, Board of Selectmen, and most certainly zoning and the funding component, that discussion. But I think it's probably a very good plan. We got to have to tie in the railroad station. Those that live in, I don't want to say it's just senior housing, but housing that surrounds downtown. Get that greenway trail for those that love their bikes, and walks and carriages. Something that's not going to put them in danger of walking downtown, a crosswalk downtown, or others. Some sort of traffic study that who knows where it'll go. Maybe it'll end up with other enhancements that we didn't see. So
yeah, I don't have difficulty seeing the downside of such an effort. There may not be. I guess we've had some pretty capable people looking at some of these issues, and along Middle Beach Road. And so there may not be a silver bullet solution. On the other hand, I think if you take a comprehensive look in terms of traffic flow, and have some people who have conducted not 4 of these studies, but 140 of these studies, there may be some ideas out there that, we just haven't, grasped yet, including educating members of the community. And, I think we're one of the things that I think we've tried to do as a commission is not try to come through with a winners losers mindset with this, where we can't say this group of citizens, residents on this road won, everyone else in the area lost. So I think I would certainly welcome, someone who would come in, assimilate a lot of information, whatever data they can have, and certainly come back and say, here are our observations and here are some potential solutions. I mean, it is an extraordinary, iconic piece of property and road down there. And I think the idea is to say that, citizens and residents of Madison, want to be able to enjoy the entire community, whether you live above Route 80 or not, this is part of your town because you're paying the taxes here. So let's come up with some ideas that we can absorb and chew on a little bit. So I do think it's a good idea going forward.
There's one additional benefit, I think, from it, just to slightly just take a tangent off your comment, Ed. I don't have a problem telling people that they have lost, because there's some of these subjects come up multiple times and they use the resources of the department, they use the resources of John Iannaco's group, and it's a repeat of the same question brought in by a different person. And I think if we have validated a study like this and it says, we're very sorry, this is X number of times we reviewed it, here are the assets behind it, Middle Beach will not be one way, and we can say that right up front, let's just save everybody's time and effort.
Yeah, for a particular study, I agree. I mean, the discussion tonight, how many times have we talked about, Green Hill and,
a lot. An awful lot. And it really, the solution for Green Hill falls on the residents.
Yeah,
there can be some signage and some minor improvements, but the Green Hill really falls on the residents to respect the speed limit and respect the fact that it's a difficult road to drive.
Yeah. Well, again, some of the problems, and the chief could educate us all, is we keep putting human beings behind the wheel. So, that's some of the issues we deal with. But I think, Chief, I'm glad that you're going to be part of this. And from, if our opinion in terms of the reaction to the police commission, and I would welcome any other comments, I would say the overall sense is, the police commission welcomes the study and the opportunity, particularly the opportunity to review it, when it's reached the appropriate stage. It is not, I do not see it as an infringement on our responsibility as the local traffic authority. It's simply another piece of information that the local traffic authority can consider and, if appropriate, act upon. So, we're all for it. So.
And as this progresses, it'd be nice, I think as it formulates more with members of various boards, it'd be nice to have a couple of commissioners on that board. Sit on that study when it comes. I have a couple of areas of safety, if I may discuss.
Sure.
Okay, I want to talk to Railroad Avenue. Coming down where Scotland meets the top of the intersection, the overpass. Mm-hmm. When I leave my office, I throw the cruise lights on. I like to come through there like the final pass before I leave town to go home. But it's my own observation, and ironically, I talked about it with Peggy and others. And the next day, I had my first of 3 letters of concern about that area. It's dark in there, and they do have a light, but it's covered by the canopy of a tree. But people accelerate because it's a two-way stop. They stop 4-way at the top of the hill. Then those coming from the east going west, or those coming from north making a right-hand turn to go west. I put the phrase, everybody's in a hurry to go pick up their to-go order. So, and then as they progress down Railroad and they come to the intersection right before the old parking for the railroad yard station, there's a hard left, and then we have the stop sign there at Bradley and Wall, which we placed. So I think what we need is where Conestoga is, which is halfway down, there is a crosswalk, but it's very dark. So I'd like to put some sort of warning device there and signage. The second part of that is enhanced crosswalk that already exists there. And I think it probably warrants a stop sign. The second part of that, Conestoga is where there's the village that comes out and there's some like apartments and a private road.
Yeah.
That comes back out there. And traffic moves, we run radar there when we have the ability to. The officers will park on the side yard there, the old train station, and they'll run radar. And it's very busy when we do. It's a 25 zone and people go through at 50, 60. Then they get to the intersection. I use the term they're on two wheels as they go around. I think where that, before it goes to the left, there's a crosswalk there, which people continue into the, there's a CrossFit in there and some businesses, and then it goes to the railroad station. I think that would warrant an additional signage and stoppage there and enhancement of those crosswalks. Now, that might be excessive to some, but you have to remember when people walk up from Scotland to make the right-hand turn and then proceed down railroad, that's how they cross the street. Those are the designated marks that they should cross the street. If somebody's walking to the train station, that'd be it. If somebody's riding a bike, that would be the path they would take. So I think we should consider putting an additional signage there and up to a stop sign in at least one location, perhaps a second. Any discussion, sir?
Comments from anyone?
No, it's good. It's a good observation.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Now with that, you'll see shortly that they're going to put a blinking, the strobe, it has an acronym to it. And of course, I always forget these are all the government acronyms for traffic safety, but it basically is a strobe that when somebody's at a crosswalk, they hit the button when it's a mid-block crosswalk and it warns oncoming drivers besides signage that somebody's in a crosswalk. Where they put the crosswalk by the Vista and by the Hearth, which would be called a mid-block, they're going to be putting one in there. The state of Connecticut has offered to put them in other mid-section crosswalks. So I'm going to ask that they put one similarly on Railroad. Although it's not in their granting of providing free of charge to the town, I'm going to request that they put one down by the car dealerships because there's a crosswalk there, mid-block, by the car wash, by the car wash and the different car businesses. So I'm going to ask that they put those in. We're also going to ask about an extension of that safety zone I talked about on Green Hill, if they would pay for additional signage, you know. So I just wanted to inform you folks and get some sort of feedback from you if you think it's worth pursuing, or the studies have been done and it's always been a recommendation for those. But at $25,000 a piece, it's hard to put those in, but the state's willing to pay for them.
Do it.
Comments? Any reservation that anyone has? I mean, this might be an area, Chief, we defer to, kind of your experience. And I don't see any reason not to do it if it, provides some additional pedestrian safety and is not going to be a real burdensome from a vehicle point of view. Sounds like we should do it.
Yeah, I believe it's appropriate. And also I'm going to ask about, I have to talk to the town because the sign, overhead lights are paid for by the town on a monthly to Eversource. So I think they should consider an additional sign, overhead light there, because it gets very dark.
Mm-hmm. Would anyone react negatively for a light there? Are there any residents there?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Are there any
there.
residents who would react negatively to a street light outside their home? I'm blanking on whether there are any resident homes there near there.
There is a whole it's occupied the block. The closest street light would be attached to the old parking for what was the original train station. When I say the old train station,
okay,
and the other one is where you go up Railroad heading east, and when you get to Scotland, where the sign says oncoming traffic does not stop, there's one right there, but the canopy of trees somewhat block it out, even with no leaves on the trees. So John's going to look at it, Inaka, and so we can have the best of plan before I send it up with the letter to DOT to Mr. Sawicki's office.
Okay, it'd be helpful to see that. Just
Well, I'll have it on, hopefully when I'm PIM map back from them. I need to provide that so John has it on record as well.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Good. Anything
That's all I
else?
have, sir.
Okay. New business. Any COVID-19 updates? We've got
I received
uh,
I received my second inoculation, vaccine. My arm hurt. That's about it.
Okay. Has everyone, in terms of dispatch and the Madison Police, is everyone who requested the vaccine have received it?
Yes, and probably 80% have received the second dose.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Good. Okay. Is there anything, Chief? I know you've got public safety protocols, but just anything in terms of the your task force work? Just you could give us a brief update on it.
Well, I had my first series of meetings last week and hit the ground running. It's very, the position's a voting member. So I've been placed on responding to the mandate on mental illness and disabilities. They've expanded that out. It's very informative. I believe their chairman appreciated the law enforcement view. Discussion of response to somebody in crisis. You know, particularly depending on the issues in the home or weapons, things like that. So I believe they're going to work that through. You'll probably see some changes in some of the mandates. As far as the subcommittee, we submitted a recommendation for motor vehicle. Now we're waiting to see if where it goes in the legislature. But it's incredibly interesting. I hope I continue to bring value to them. The discussions are quite candid. It's a mix of all folks, from elected officials to people that were. We have two people that were incarcerated that are involved in the committee. People from religious groups. A lot of the cities are represented. So, of course, you also have civil rights representation, American Civil Liberties Union, CHRO, the State's Attorney's Office, police, mental health, substance abuse. I mean, it's pretty busy.
How many members are there, Chief?
10 voting members on my committee. There's probably 15 members, 16. I believe there's 6 on that are on the committee that are not voting members.
Do you have a mandate in terms of when your recommendations need to be complete?
Yes. So the committee that I was on before this sent the mandate required we submit it up to the committee I sit on now to vote on. So there's some tweaking going on. There's been some changes. I think what we're seeing is some of the I'll use the term effective dates to where a lot of the laws are supposed to take effect. I think they're going to push them back because they're required further study. And also what they changed was they now want both the committees from both houses to weigh in prior to putting it to a vote, which was part of the change we expected. I think the unintended consequences are what we figured would happen. They're saying now this is going to be quite a challenge and expense. I mean, I think we're, by virtue of where we are with Kalia, Advanced, and others, and what the culture is within this police department, we've got probably 92% of that covered already. I worry and I say that because I'm in law enforcement, I worry about some of the larger agencies. They're not going to be able to accomplish it. So you look at the governor's support of funding back to the towns. I think Guilford gets $3 million. I think we get $1 million. I think Clinton's getting $6 million. Once again, they're paying a little less than $300,000 for all things ham and acid. Right, Al? Yeah, so I mean, once again, we're, mandates without funding.
Yeah, those are easy to vote on if you're at the state legislature. Not so easy when you're the town. So, but anyway, well, look, I think that is very helpful to have you as a participant on it, both for your input and also, I think for the sense you get in terms of where we're going, or where the task force is going, and where we're going as a state. So, we look forward to regular updates in terms of that task force work. Is there anything else before we get into commissioner comments? Anything else, Chief, to share?
I just want to point out that our own Captain Joe Race, and with the empire known as Kalia. Go ahead, Joe. Tell them it's. Joe is now
I'm a CLIA team leader for assessments. So I did the training last week. As soon as it was finished, they gave me my first assignment, which is Huntersville, North Carolina, towards the end of March. So I will now have my team working with me to assess other agencies, and now I'm responsible for the reporting requirements.
Oh, well, congratulations. I think it certainly reflects both the experience and what you bring to the assessment process. I know Huntersville, North Carolina is where they have the raccoons down there. So you just have to, that's just bad luck in terms of your first assignment, but good luck. But seriously, I think it does reflect, well on both, where Kalia has assessed this department and the dispatcher. So it's an honor to, to be asked to be a team leader, and, undoubtedly you're going to learn something, as I've always believed, learn something from the assessment process. I've taught some classes and never came away from a particular academic year without learning something from everyone sitting in the class. So great, congratulations.
Thank you.
If you can, Captain, bring home some really good barbecue.
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately, this one, in this climate, it is a Zoom on site. So it's
you can't Zoom barbecue.
Can't Zoom barbecue.
Right. Well, some of this is going to be thank God for Zoom. Look at commissioner comments.
None. No, sir.
Marietta?
I've got nothing.
Ann?
I actually have something. I just want to give a thank you to the police department. On Sunday when the snow started, my husband was driving home from Middletown and he did not run into any issues, but he ran into several accidents in Middletown and Madison. And in Madison, a woman whose Jeep, I don't know, up at the top of our road, like at the at the 80-81, I'm sorry, the 79-80 circle, ran up an embankment, and a police officer, I think, said he was going to drive her car home. So, and another officer was going to follow him, and, just wanted to give a thanks and a shout out to the police department for being so helpful with folks. I'm glad to hear most people stayed off the road. On Sunday, it sounds like there was a little bit more traffic than you would have wanted, but so thanks for that.
Thank you.
Good, great. Thanks for mentioning that, Ann. I don't have any comments. Chief, I think it was a helpful discussion on the budget process and plan, and I'm thinking of other years when we had to go back several times to work our way through the process. So I appreciate the fact that we did some planning and some effective communication with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, and we're in the good shape that we're in. So anyway, thank you very much. I don't think we have any personnel matters for the executive session. So can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
From Marietta, second by Tom.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I guess we didn't run too much over, but again, I really appreciate the time you put into these discussions. Chief, thank you. Joe, Appreciate it. Al, you're supposed to be here, so, you know, you
Ah.
don't get